Hello and welcome to the 2021 Candidates Forum. I am your host, Makita Keegan. Tonight, we'll be hearing from candidates from uncontested elected races here in Ashland. But before we start our conversation with the candidates for these uncontested seats for library, trustee, and planning board, I want to thank our sponsors, We Love Ashland and WACA-TV. I also want to sincerely thank our candidates for participating this evening. These forums are so critical, but voting is even more so to make sure that your voice is heard. So along those lines, a few reminders. The last day to register to vote in Ashland's election is Thursday, May 7th. Early voting will be held at Ashland Town Hall, Wednesday, May 12th from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Saturday, May 15th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. You can download a vote by mail application from the town website, but the application must be received no later than 5 p.m. Wednesday, May 12th. And of course, on May 18th, in-person voting takes place at Ashland High School. If you need any further information on how to vote, please visit the town website. And now for this evening's rules. Questions from the moderator are previously called from topics and questions solicited from the public. Tonight, you can also submit questions via the WACA Facebook page and candidatesforumashland@gmail.com. Do a little bit more about the questions later. But each question is going to be rotated amongst the candidates with respect to response order. Each candidate will have 60 seconds to respond to the question. At my discretion, there may be an opportunity for a 30-second rebuttal following completion of responses. Rebuttal order is in the same as it was for the question. Candidates really must respect the timekeeper's warning and signal to stop. I thank all of you in advance for your cooperation. We want to make sure that we keep this event moving and on time and also allow for as many questions as possible for the public. So please do not look away from the timekeeper's warnings. And if you do, after the timekeeper tells you to stop, I will verbally tell you after that stop warning is given as well. Like I said earlier, questions from the audience and the public have been collected ahead of time. And if possible, we'll be able to collect them in real time off of email and Facebook, off the WACA Facebook page, and at the email address I gave before, candidatesforumashland@gmail.com. And one note for folks who are submitting questions from home. We may be editing your questions slightly for clarity and grammar, but more important, we're going to be asking questioners to limit themselves to one non-multi-part question. So now let's get on to candidate introductions. So as I call on you, just say who you are and what office you're running for. And Claire, we'll start with you.
Hi, thanks so much for having me tonight. My name is Claire Goss, and I'm running for one of the 3-year open terms for library trustee.
Thank you, Claire. Anna.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. I am Anna Tesmanitsky, and I'm running for the 2-year planning board seat.
And Linda.
Good evening. Thank you so much. I'm Linda Ween, and I'm running for the 3-year library trustee position that's currently available.
Thank you for your introductions. And now we're going to get on with the questions. We've got quite a few of them here. Try to get through as many of them as we can. So my first question is, and this is for everyone, and I'll call on y'all, but topical knowledge and experience can be a big benefit when discussing, debating, and making decisions. In this changing world, how do you plan to keep on top of and stay aware of current happenings in the things that impact the board that you're running for? So Linda, why don't we start with you?
Thank you so much. I will use the board as my mentor. The current board is my mentor. And the first part of my time on the board will be spent just learning how others on the board have kept themselves abreast of what needs to be of high importance and focus for our town, for Ashland, and for the community. So I'll use them as a member of their team. I will reach out to other resources that they may recommend. I have some personal experience myself in as a professional educator, and will reach out to others who I think might help to fill in the blanks, so to speak, as I grow accustomed to the work of the trustees.
Thank you, Linda. Claire, same question.
Yeah, thank you. So I have a lot of experience from recent years. I've been on the Friends of the Ashland Public Library Board for the last, I think, 5 going on 6 years. So I'm pretty familiar with some of the basic operations of the library. I rely heavily on those board meetings already to make decisions about what kind of programming should be brought to the library with those funds that we raise. So I realize the trustee position is a slightly different role with different responsibilities, but in a similar way, I anticipate working, again, as Linda said, with the current expertise of the existing board, and then building from that and listening to my peers in the community, other leaders in the community, to find out what they think the library should be used for, any issues people are having, and how we can all solve those problems together.
Thank you, Claire. Anna.
So I would say 2 ways. One is the planning board is impacted extremely directly by other parts of our community, whether it's the school board and how planning and development impacts school issues, such as attendance, as well as our tax base. So I would say the number one thing that's important is to be aware of those different positions and other parts of our community and how that impacts the planning board. And then I would say the second is trends, developmental trends in other communities similar to Ashland. Ashland is very unique. It's a very educated middle-class community with many families, young kids. So we have a very specific kind of community. So how we develop here is not unique. We have unique characteristics, but there are other communities who have confronted similar issues, such as how do we manage growth while holding on to our identity. So I think being aware of how.
Thank you. Sorry, you ran out of time. So on to the next question. And we actually have a viewer question that came in, and I'm going to field this to everyone as well. So question for any of the candidates. Well, we'll say all of the candidates. The state's open meeting law restricts board and committee members' public deliberation of an issue that could potentially come before that board. This is often at odds with the public's communication expectations, especially with social media. How do you plan to balance communicating with the public on important issues with compliance with open meeting law and limitations around social media? Definitely a question for our times. Linda, I'll have you take that one first.
Okay, well, as my professional life included being a principal of the elementary school in Holliston. And so I'm very aware of the importance of separating public from private. And and also of the importance of reaching out with information, but also making sure that reach out is within the limits and the restrictions of what is legal and what should be shared with others. So I'm not sure exactly what it would look like as a trustee, but I can tell you that I am very cognizant of the importance of privacy and of also in providing information that people need to know.
Thank you, Linda. Anna.
So the question, I think, goes to how do we gather data or information from the public while not deliberating with others who are to make decisions with us? So I don't see much of a conflict. I think as long as we communicate with the public by gathering public input and we're not deliberating on Facebook about what we're actually going to decide, we're not going to violate the law.
Thank you, Anna. Claire.
you know, I empathize and sympathize with the person who asked this question, only because as a town resident, I have definitely been in that situation where you find out that something you had interest in was voted on and you didn't even realize it was up for vote. And then it's that situation where you want to get mad about it, but then really what it comes down to, as I've learned, is that all of these offices, all the meetings are open to the public, and there's always a portion that's opened for public comment. So as long as you're able to stay aware as the citizen of this town when those meetings are happening, you will always have an opportunity in a public setting to express whatever opinions you have about what decisions are being made, even though those decisions then have to go and be deliberated in private. So I think what we can do as leaders in this community is do an even better job than we're already doing of communicating when those meetings are happening and when public comment is happening on those agendas, so that people feel like they can show up and they know when to be where, and then I know I'm going to have my voice heard by these people who are going to make a decision that impacts me.
Thank you, Claire. So the next question that we have is a specific planning board question. So Anna, this is going to be fielded towards you for the planning board. What do you think that the planning board and the town should require to improve developer plans and drawings so that we do not have repeats of a building looming over the sidewalk as we do downtown and on Pond Street / Route 126 now?
So I would say the number one thing we can do is improve the process. I do believe that there needs to be more voices heard earlier in the process of any development, so that in lieu of folks hearing about a development when it feels like the decision has already been made, there should absolutely be more communication between the developer and the public, probably prior to even coming to the planning board. So I would say one of the strongest ways to prevent that issue is to really encourage potential developers to complete as many public forums as they can prior to bringing their business to the planning board. And once they are at the planning board level, to encourage them to continue to do those public forums, so that if the public does not participate in planning board business, developers do need to improve how they communicate with the public directly.
Thank you, Anna. Next question, I'm going to field to our library trustee candidates. Being a board member means being part of a team of individuals who together make stronger, more effective decisions. What experiences have each of you had as part of a team where success was achieved because of that teamwork? We'll start with Linda.
Okay. Thank you. My work in education was always as a member of a team, as when I was a teacher in the schools and throughout my professional career until I became an administrator. And then my team was very, very large. And I feel strongly that that everyone is a member of the team. Everyone's opinion is there to be heard, and everyone has an opportunity to share their level of expertise because we're stronger together. So I'm very much a team player, and cooperation, collaboration, and working together is really what creates the most positive and the most effective and engaged result.
Thank you, Linda. Claire?
I love Linda's answer so much. I have, like I mentioned earlier, I've been working on the Friends of the Ashland Public Library Board for years. And I've worked on, countless other teams as a working professional since college. And, I wholeheartedly agree with Linda. You need collaboration, you need communication, you need active listening. I do agree everyone's opinion is important. That doesn't mean that everyone's going to be happy when you leave a meeting. So it's also important to recognize that in a group of leaders, not every leader is always going to get their way, and that can be tricky to navigate sometimes. But I do think if you've got that foundation of respect, which may take a little time to earn as a new trustee member, but I hope it could be earned quickly. I think, yeah, it's just a matter of respect, and everything goes from there.
Thanks, Claire. I've got a question for all three of you right now. So Community participation can be a challenge in local government. And especially now with the global pandemic and other mitigating factors, it can be even more so. How do you feel increased participation would impact or affect the board that you're seeking to serve on? And I do want to start with Claire on that one.
Yeah, could you repeat the beginning of the question again? I'm sorry.
Sure. Community participation is a challenge in current government. How do you feel that increased participation would affect, or would it affect, the board or committee that you're seeking to serve on?
Increased participation from the town?
Increased community participation.
Increased community participation. I'm assuming that's in relation to this office would be increased community participation at the library.
Yes.
I don't, I know the library is one of the quieter institutions in town. That doesn't mean we haven't had some heavy hitting decisions that directly impact the finances of the town. I would encourage more community members to find out what's going on at the library. I would really, I welcome that impact actually, because I feel sometimes that people don't even realize all the resources that are available to them. I don't anticipate any huge impact with the decisions that we're making in terms of there being any like truly hot-headed, like, cantankerous interactions, but I hope that there will be the increase. I welcome it.
Anna, same question.
Yeah, and if I may, I'll answer both questions because I think we may have skipped the prior question. So
actually, I didn't ask you the prior question. I just asked the two other candidates.
Oh, understood.
So I'm asking you this question just for clarification. So.
Oh, no worries.
Yeah.
So the second question only, not the team's question.
Yeah, that's right.
So I think they're interconnected, actually. I guess my thought is that, with the pandemic, I think more members of the public are participating in virtual meetings, which is great. I think that's a clue to how we should hold meetings post the pandemic. I think a lot of working folks are having a hard time participating in public meetings. And so I welcome that. I welcome the new technology we're using for this particular event. And I hope we'll do that more as a town in general. And I certainly think for the planning board, participation of the public is extremely important because the work is very technical. It's not always easy to understand how to read development plans and how that may impact other parts of the town. And so I welcome the virtual reality we have now, and I hope that it continues post-pandemic.
Thank you, Anna. Linda.
So I see both sides. I see the pandemic side, which is virtual and easily accessible, to creating more engagement for those folks who might not participate in person in library events or whatever. But I also think that the library, and I will say this now, and I'll say it again probably through the evening, is the heart of the community. And it has to do with human beings being together and sharing resources and bringing families to the books, to the activities and such. And I think that the best way to do this is just to encourage people to come, to be there at the library, because that's the best way to engage with that particular facility. So I would encourage just activities and planning that will.
I'm sorry, Linda.
Stop. Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Thank you. We have another question for planning board. So Anna, this is specifically for you. Why don't we have a development consultant on staff to help us figure out what the break-even figures are for any developments, rather than taking a developer's word as to what their break-even figures are?
I appreciate that very technical question. I don't have an answer as to why we as a town may not have that position filled per se. I've previously worked with other communities. When I lived in Portland, Maine, I sat on the CDBG community board, which had to do with how block grants come in to develop a community. So I am somewhat familiar with how communities may have limited resources as far as the ability to hire consultants or full-time staff. And you do have to work creatively as a planning board member to gather that data point if you don't have someone that you can just turn to. And there are ways that you can attract those voices. We have extremely educated people in this community, many of whom care deeply about development issues. And if you engage the public, you can get incredible consulting input from our own town folks who care deeply about this community.
Thank you, Anna. I have a question for everybody, and it's somewhat related to the previous one, but so some of the previous things that we were discussing. So funding for activities is often a controversial topic, even if it's just to make copies or brochures. Do you have any suggestions on any board or committee financial management? So why don't I pose that to Linda first?
Well, communication is really the it's at the top of the list. We've got to get the information out. I think that there are a variety of ways to effectively communicate. Using social media certainly is one way. I've found that communication through the schools is very effective. Often information going home through children resonates to their parents and draws people into a community who might not otherwise have been engaged. I think certainly we need to look very carefully at how much money is being expended for communication, but there are resources that are effective and that we can access, I think, to get the word out.
Thank you, Linda. Claire.
Yes, it's a good question. I think something that I did when I became the co-chair of the summer reading program for the Friends about 5 years ago was I did take a long, hard look at the budget. It had been a few years since there'd been a really successful fundraising year, and I wanted to make sure that our budget going forward was always in the green. And so one of the things that I did was kind of just like an overall audit of like, what are we spending money on? And is that a good use of money? So really asking that second question is the most critical part, because we found, for example, that we were spending money on little tchotchke prizes for the kids to take home every week. And when we actually spoke to the parents, they didn't really like getting those very much. So we dialed back money spending on that and spent it instead on actual books the kids could take home. And just that shift, that really shifted our budget in a positive way. And we just needed to ask more critical questions about what are we spending it on? And is that a good use of the money?
Thank you, Claire. Anna.
So in a micro level, I'm not sure the planning board has a budget per se. If it does, I certainly would want to learn a lot about that, being new to the planning board. But on a macro level, what the work of the planning board absolutely impacts the town budget. So when we have developers coming in, that's going to impact not only the school committee or the school budget, but also our tax base, et cetera. Our roads, our trash removal, all kinds of things. So on a wider level, I think one of the things that planning board members must do is understand that impact so that we develop our community thoughtfully and strategically without ignoring the consequences of our actions.
Thank you, Anna. I actually have another planning board question specifically for you. The question is this: 40R. Do you know who is our consultant, or who is our consultant for the 40R development planned in town? And what are the major pros and cons to a 40R development? This is a significant zoning change with lots of future cost implications for the town.
I'm not familiar with who the developer is. I assume the reference to the statute may be the reference to statute that removes specific requirements when you build affordable housing. I'm assuming that's what the question relates to. And if I understand the question correctly, how do you do that thoughtfully in our community? I think that applies to any development that we attract. But any kind of development that removes statutory requirements needs to be thought through a little bit more with scrutiny, so that when we remove any kind of what's typical for a developer to confront, if we're going to remove it, then we need to understand how that development fits within the wider vision that we have as a community. Because if we continuously remove regulation for every developer that comes in, we may be losing sight of our long-term vision.
Thanks, Anna. Here's here's a question for everyone. How do you see the role of the board interacting with town staff? That is the question. So Claire, I think we'll have you answer that first.
Sure. Well, actually, I think it's pretty critical for the health of the library to have a lot of communication with the town and actually have the town communicate out to our citizens and residents what's going on at the library. Like we need patrons, we need feet through the door, right? Even during pandemic times, we want people utilizing the resources virtually or coming in to browse when it's safe to do so. And the way that we even communicate our hours right now is largely done through the town. So I think it's really critical that we have a really healthy working relationship with town communications that they can then turn over our messaging to everyone effectively.
Thanks, Claire. Linda, how do you see the role of the board interacting with town staff?
I think it's just as Claire said, I think it's of critical importance. It starts at the top. And I think in terms of budget and fiscal responsibility shared, encouraging residents of the town to participate in activities at the library and any of the fundraising events that might be associated with the functions of the library. If we have the support of our town manager and he has a good sense of connectedness with the work that we're doing, then I think it becomes a strength for the library, for the community, and for all of the for all of the participants who reach out to us for resources.
Anna? You are muted.
Would you repeat the question, please?
How do you see the role of the board interacting with town staff?
As I mentioned earlier, I think that the planning board, the work that the planning board does in being responsible for development as it is, means that the work impacts other departments very, very directly. So working with town staff becomes very, very important to understand the vision that the town has, to understand what has worked, what has not worked, how other departments will be impacted is extremely important.
Thank you. We have another question for planning board. So Anna, this one's for you. What do you think that the town should do to preserve trees and green space?
I think that is a question that's one of the questions that attracted me to the position. I do believe that we can do more as a community in how we preserve natural space in Ashland. When I drive through other local communities on my way home, I am very visually impacted by what makes us unique and different, but also by what we're losing through our development. And so I do believe that, and I've been here, I actually went to Ashland High School and graduated from Ashland High School in 1995 before leaving Massachusetts for college and then coming back for law school. And I moved back to Ashland not long ago. I own this condo now for a few years. So I've seen the town from the mid-90s until now. It has changed a lot. The development has changed a lot. We've really moved from a very rural community to a much more developed one. I'm done.
Please stop. Thank you. All righty, let's keep going. Another question, and it's very similar to the one that I asked everyone else before, but has to do with intra-board and committee work. So name another board or committee with which you think you could work closely with that would benefit both boards and committees. Linda, I want to start with you on that.
Well, certainly the Friends of the Ashland Library would be a committee that we would work very closely with. I think that's the history of the two as working partners to benefit the library. I think that the library as a community resource could reach out to any one of the town committees and work work side by side to serve goals that might be a part of the strategic plan for the community. There are a variety of different ways, but I do see that, and the school committee, again, just thinking a little bit more, the school committee, I think, would be a committee that would be a real strong partner for the work at the library.
Thank you, Linda. Claire.
Yeah, I mean, I'll echo what Linda said. The Friends of the Library and the school committee are two natural pairings. I know the Friends and the library staff already work very closely with the administration of the Ashland Public Schools. Like when springtime rolls around, the librarians are knocking on the principal's doors saying, to give us your summer reading titles so that we can have them in stock for the kids, right? That's why we're here. We want kids coming in the summer and they don't need to spend their own money on the summer reading titles. So there are already some natural partnerships. I think, I feel like the library works a lot with all the community boards already, right? Like you drive by the library now that outdoor dining is opened and Erica's restaurant is using the library lawn for outdoor dining. That involves several different decision makers on different boards coming together to think, what can we do for the community here? How can we work together? So I just hope that continues.
Thanks, Claire. How about you, Anna?
I mean, I would say that the school committee and the conservation committee are important as far as the impact the development has. But outside of committees, I think that the folks, our town staff who are working on economic development, as well as our business folks in the community, should also be at the table. Not just our committees and boards, but our local business leaders who are part of how we develop as well.
Thanks, Anna. Another question about something that we're all very familiar with and are using right now. While Zoom meetings are not the same as in person, they have allowed for more participation and attendance during COVID. What are the plans post-COVID or what would you like to see for plans post-COVID to allow meetings, maybe hybrid meetings or digital meetings, so that folks who can't make meetings in person could still participate remotely? What are your thoughts on that, Claire?
I'm of two minds, actually. I see the pros and cons of staying hybrid. I really look forward to meeting with people three-dimensionally again. I think there's stuff that's lost even with your camera on, even with your audio on. I think things can still be harder when meeting virtually. That said, as a mother of 3 young children and a full-time working parent, I really like being able to hop on Zoom 5 minutes after I finish making dinner, right? It's very easy to work virtual meetings seamlessly into your life. I do hope we can work out some kind of a hybrid situation where maybe half the meetings are virtual and half of them, maybe during cold and flu season, we just stay virtual. And then we can do some of the meetings in person. It would be nice to find a way to balance the pros and cons of both.
Linda, your thoughts?
So I think that's a great question. I'm very much a human being person, and I like being with other people. And I've found not having human contact and being in a room where I can read people just very, very difficult. Zoom doesn't do it for me. On the other hand, I think that our virtual world has created an unexpected opportunity for us to include those who would not otherwise be able to participate. And I'd like to see that opportunity continue, but not at the expense of limiting chances for people to get together and share space and communicate directly with each other.
Thank you, Linda. Anna, you shared a little bit about this before, but I'd like you to have an opportunity to respond to this specific question.
Sure. I think I'll reiterate some of the things Claire and Linda said, of course, and rather than repeating them, I'll add a point where, some of these decisions we make as a town, as a community, are going to impact generations to come. And so we want to be more flexible and more virtual, but we also want to be responsible. And sometimes the best way to be responsible to our long-term plans is to actually see each other in person and build connection that way. And I do believe that if you're a developer coming in to our community and you're going to impact that community for decades to come, the public should be able to meet with you in person if they so wish.
Thanks, Anna. Anna, we have another planning board question that came in. Could you please share your view on whether Ashland's zoning bylaw needs review? If so, why or why not?
Yes, because I'm an attorney and it's fun. No, yes, absolutely. You know, bylaws should always be reviewed regularly. We are growing extremely quickly as a community. The economy is changing extremely quickly. The real estate market is extremely unpredictable. And development in general is bringing in a lot of attention to the community. And so all of those reasons is why we should be reviewing the bylaws regularly, especially now.
Thanks, Anna. Claire. And well, everybody. I want to give folks an opportunity, though folks have had a chance to talk a little bit about this while answering other questions. We do have a more specifically addressed question around this issue. What other experiences have you had on a board or committee, and how might that prepare you for this effort?
Yeah, so I've been very involved with the library since I moved here. It's like one of the first things I did was get my library card at the Ashland Public Library. And I stepped into the role of co-chair for the summer reading program with Lois McAuliffe, who's our children's director, about 6 years ago, which meant that I became a board member on the Friends of the APL as well. And so I learned so much about just the finances right there, about how the library functions, what the Friends can pay for versus what the town pays for. There's a huge, clear division there. And I've been actively fundraising to support the programming for the library for the last 6 years. So I have a lot of that kind of, and I also have very good working relationships with library staff because of that. So I feel like all that will lend itself to this new role.
Thank you, Claire. Anna, same question.
So I had mentioned that when I lived in Portland, Maine, I was appointed to the CDBG Priorities Task Force. And what that was is the city of Portland was receiving multiple millions of dollars every year that needed to be allocated to develop the community. And I was appointed to it by city council, elected, I guess, to be co-chair. And we had a board of about 10 or so folks from different parts of the community. And I worked on it for quite a while. I think it was 10 months. And I would say that experience dealing with development issues very, very closely and dealing with business people, nonprofit people, members of the public, school board, everyone really across the board in the city of Portland to assure that this money was coming in thoughtfully, constructively, is probably the best experience I've had to prepare me for the planning board. Being a lawyer and not being afraid to fall deeply into statutory language.
I'm sorry, Anna. I have to ask you to stop.
I'm getting good at stopping, so.
Linda?
Yeah, that's a great question. I moved to Ashland 41 years ago with a 4-year-old son, and I have lived on Pine Hill Road for all of those years. My professional life was in Holliston, though, and it was there that I participated in a lot of committee work with my staff, with the administrative group that I was a part of at Holliston, through Holliston Public Schools, and also with parents, with a number of parent organizations throughout the years. I'm currently a member of a group called the Holliston Education Foundation, and one of the reasons why I'm so interested in the library and the trustee position is because I have not had an opportunity to participate and have not reached out over the years. And I'm looking forward to this opportunity to give back to the community.
Thank you, Linda. I have another question from the public. The town is undergoing an enormous renovation. How might this affect the efforts of the board or committee you're seeking to be a part of? So Claire, I'll start with you on that.
I'm assuming they're referring to additional developments that are being made and our increased population. It's kind of a vague question, but I'm going
It
to.
is rather nebulous, but I think you'll have to interpret it as you see fit.
Okay, I'm gonna tackle this question, assuming that you mean that we've had kind of a staggering population increase in the last 10 years. Real estate in Ashland is hot, 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 as we all know. This will impact the library, right? We have to make sure that we're prepared with programming and resources. And resources includes books, but it also includes enough computers that are open for the public. Do we have the Wi-Fi bandwidth to support additional people visiting the library every week? So I do think we need to be forward thinking about how the town is growing and how the library can support that growth in a way that the library does, right? But which is by increasing accessibility to all these educational materials.
Thanks, Claire. Anna.
I believe the reference in the question may be to the development on Route 126 from Market Basket towards Ashland. I'm guessing that's what the question is about.
Like I said, it's very nebulous, so
yes,
you'll have to interpret the way you ought to.
I absolutely think that's related to planning board business. You know, any development in town impacts planning board directly. And what I would say is the way to think about that for me personally, you know, I am part of that development. As I mentioned, I graduated from Ashland High, but when I moved here, I bought a condo. And so I very much understand how that development happens and why. And being part of that, I can now see other development coming in, right? And so we need to figure out as a community how to do that in a way that we are content with decade after decade, because what Ashland looks like now is not what it looked like in 1995 in good ways and some bad. And we need to be a little bit more thoughtful so that our kids and their kids don't have the same thoughts that we do, or the same concerns, I should say.
Thanks, Anna. Linda?
Yeah, and I would, when you ask the question, I thought immediately of the Town project that is about to be started and what that's going to look like and how that will impact our library and access to the library and any of the surrounding area. And so there's a lot going on in Ashland. I would agree with Anna that Ashland has changed remarkably since I first came here 41 years ago, and we are more a community now than a town. I think all of the projects, which are very exciting and are really, I believe, going to create more enthusiasm and more connection between the members of our community, need to be just carefully acknowledged and optimized to our advantage as a growing and dynamic community.
Thanks, Linda. I have another question that I'd like everyone to field. How would you handle hearing a complaint about something the board that you're hoping to serve on is faced with? And I'll start with you, Anna.
I think that complaints are an opportunity for growth. Any kind of criticism, it requires active listening and figuring out what we can do to improve. Number one, communication is oftentimes behind the issue or complaint, or some kind of improvement in communication that needs to happen. With any kind of public service that we do, I would be a public servant. The board is a public servant, if you will, to the taxpayer and to the community. So if there's a complaint, I think that's extremely serious, and we need to look deeper, not only on how we communicate, but what is it that we're not responding to. Oftentimes the complaint is level one, and underneath it are other layers of issues that we're failing as a community to address.
Thanks, Anna. Linda.
Certainly we need to openly and respectfully hear the complaint completely, without any judgment, and that needs to be reflected by the entire team as active listeners and good listeners. often the best way I have found to resolve issues is to engage the person who may have some kind of a difficulty with the board or something that's happened, to engage them and ask for their help in resolution. Bring them on board, saying, I need your help. We need your help. How can we make this better? Let's understand it together. So certainly not alienating, and bringing the person who has the complaint or the issue on board, I think is often very successful in moving
Sorry,
ahead.
Linda, I'm going to have to ask you to stop. Okay. Another question I'd like to have folks field before we wrap up and do some final statements are, what's in it for you? Why do you want to volunteer for this position? Anna, we'll start with you.
So I love public service. As a full-time working parent, I feel that sometimes it's difficult to give back, but there's something about this time. My daughter is a freshman in Ashland High School, and I feel that this community is shifting, is changing, and I have a little bit more time just because she's more independent. And so there's a sense of responsibility to give back. And when the 2-year planning board seat was available, I felt that I could truly do that. I could commit to 2 years fully and completely, and do my very best. And it feels good. It feels good to give back to the community. I'm originally from the former Soviet Union. Being an immigrant, I'm very proud to be an American. I love this country and I love giving back to it. So there's something very personal to me as an immigrant, as a first generation immigrant as well, or being born elsewhere and coming here and really living much of the
I'm
American.
sorry, Anna. I have to ask
That's
you to
okay.
stop.
I got it all in, I think.
Claire, same question.
Got it. So I really feel similar to what Anna said. I feel pretty strongly about volunteering where you live. I don't, I want to be a role model for my kids and everything. It's the same way my parents were for me. And I just feel, on a really selfish level, I feel very strongly that you don't get to complain about things that you haven't participated in, right? So I know that might sound kind of self-centered and selfish, but I really do feel strongly that if you want to be part of your town, if you feel like you get to have an opinion about how things are run, then you should help run them, right? And that's why I vote in every single election. That's why I try my best to attend every town meeting. It's because I want to be part of the decision-making process. Doesn't mean I have to be in charge, but my vote is a way of me for my town. Volunteering for this position is a way that I'm going to try to show up for my town and my community.
Thanks, Claire. Linda?
Yes, this is an opportunity for me to give back. I think that it's something that is long overdue for me personally, as a member of this community and as someone who cares deeply about Ashland. My position is a great, given my background and my work for so many years in education and with people, I think it's a great fit for me, and I am just really excited to have this opportunity and do this kind of work and serve the community this way. So many others have done it before me, and I'm really excited to have an opportunity myself.
Thank you, Linda. And now we're actually coming up on time. So it's going to be time for us to hear from your closing statements. Each candidate has 1 minute apiece to give the closing statement. I'll be going in reverse order of opening. So that actually means, Linda, that you will be going first. But you'll need to unmute yourself.
Oh. I'm trying. There we go. So Ashland has changed. Ashland today, this Ashland, our Ashland, is certainly not the same Ashland that welcomed me 41 years ago. This Ashland today, our Ashland, is a community that's rich in diversity, new tradition, culture. We've become a community with a downtown center that's filled with families on market day, corner spot attractions, Stone Park. It's a very different downtown, and community and connectedness have given downtown Ashland a new face, and which I think is continuing to be reflected at the Ashland Library, the heart of our community. So I'm excited, as I said, to have the opportunity to work with the other trustees and our new director to support the library, to support this wonderful changing community, and to plan ahead for our future needs and resources as we continue to grow and
So I'm sorry, Linda.
stop.
I'll have
And
to ask you
I'm
to stop
sorry.
there.
Thank you. And
So.
thank you so much. I will say that before I stop. Thank you.
Anna?
So to add to Linda's point, really, it's extraordinary how Ashland has changed in so many great ways, and it's truly a very diverse, vibrant community. With that comes challenges, and we're going through massive growth that will bring many of us the types of change that requires involvement of some kind. I would view my role on the planning board as trying to bring in more transparency, more process for the community, so that people are not surprised when suddenly there's a major construction project down their street, and are actually involved earlier in the process. That's number one. That level of transparency and process is what I'm truly dedicated to. And number two is using my personal kind of skill set as an attorney, as somebody who's worked in development before, to not forget the little details.
I'm sorry. Oh, wait, no, keep going.
Not forget the little details.
Now stop, sorry. I'm looking at it else.
It was a lot of fun.
So I'm sorry, Anna, but thank you very much. Claire, go ahead.
Yes, I'll say thank you first. So I have not been here as nearly as long as Anna and Linda. I moved here 10 years ago, like I said, and one of the first things I did was get my library card, and it ended up being the best thing I could do, because I actually met my best friends at the library. And that really is what it is for me. It's always been like that since I was a teenager. The library is a welcoming place to go, no matter who you are, how old you are, color of your skin, what language you speak. The doors are open to anyone. So I've always felt comfortable there. And I think it's important to acknowledge that libraries, they don't just provide free access to books and cultural materials. They offer things like companionship for our older residents, connections for busy parents. It's a welcoming space for our teenagers to go. It's a safe place to go. So I've always loved that about libraries. They welcome all ages, ethnicities, religions, cultures, socioeconomic backgrounds. And I would be really proud to help protect and improve our town library, because I think a healthy library leads to a stronger, more inclusive community. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. And thank you to our candidates tonight for participating in this forum. I do want to say that it's so important for the town, for folks to step up and volunteer, whether you're in a contested race or an uncontested race. It's very important that we all participate in town, and whether you're a voter as well. That is another way that you can participate. So with that, I'm going to close this part of this evening's Candidates Forum and remind folks to stay tuned, because after this session, we'll be speaking with the Board of Health candidates. Again, a very hearty thank you to all of our participants, and everybody at home, please stay tuned. We'll be back with you shortly. Hello and welcome back to the 2021 Candidates Forum here in Ashland. I'm your host, Makita Keegan. Tonight, during the second part of our broadcast, we'll be hearing from candidates in the uncontested Board of Health election right here in Ashland. Before we start our conversation, I do want to thank our sponsors, We Love Ashland and WACA-TV. And I also want to send a special thanks to our candidates for participating in this evening's forum. These forums are critical, but voting is even more so to make sure that your voice is heard. So with that, I'd like to share some information. The last day to register to vote here in Ashland for this election is Thursday, May 7th. Early voting will be held at Ashland Town Hall, Wednesday, May 12th from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Saturday, May 15th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. If you want to vote by mail, please download a vote by mail application from the town website. But please keep in mind that the application must be received no later than 5 p.m. Wednesday, May 12th. And then, of course, on May 18th, in-person voting takes place at Ashland High School. If you'd like to get more information on how to vote here in this election, or if that went by a little bit too fast for you, please visit the town website. All of the information is there and available for you. Now, moving on again with this evening's rules and format. So, questions from the moderator, previously called from topics and questions solicited from the public. You can also submit questions during this conversation. We're live right now. At the WACA Facebook page or at candidatesforumashland@gmail.com. Talk a little bit more about that again before we get started. Each question is rotated amongst candidates with respect to response order. Each candidate responds for up to 60 seconds at the moderator's discretion. There may be an opportunity for a 30-second rebuttal following the completion of responses. Rebuttal order is the same as it was for the question. Candidates, please respect the timekeeper's warning and their signal to stop. I thank you in advance for your cooperation. Again, we want to make sure that we keep this event on time. We want to get in as many questions from the public as we can. So keeping time and being mindful of time is very important for everyone, those of us participating in the forum and those of us watching from home. So then again, just another reminder about timekeeping. You'll get a warning at 30 seconds, 15 seconds, and then stop. And then again, I will verbally tell you all to stop once that card is presented. Getting back to questions from the audience, we do have some questions from the public that have been collected ahead of time. So if you've tuned in earlier, you might hear some of the same questions because they've been asked across the board. Some of them will be coming in real time. And again, if you have a question and you're sitting here and you're listening to this at home, please post them on the WACA Facebook site, or if you can go to candidatesforumashland@gmail.com, we'll be able to get your question and get that question on the air. Just another point of information for those who are submitting questions this evening, we may edit your question for clarity and grammar, and we ask that you ask only one non-multi-part question. Now, on to candidate introductions. So each candidate will have the opportunity to make an opening statement, and it's basically just who they are and what office they're running for, and then we'll get into the questions. So I will ask Bernadette to introduce herself first. Bernadette.
Oh, thank you for that opportunity. My name is Bernadette Lonkuse, and I'm running as a Board of Health candidate.
Thank you, Bernadette. And KG.
Hi, my name is Kuruvair Gina Raina. I'm running for a 3-year Board of Health term. Thank you, Makita.
Thank you, KG, and thank you, Bernadette. Let's get off to the questions. We've got a few of them coming in already. Here's one. Yep. People want to talk to you.
Oh,
so, the Board of Health regulates wells in the town. In the last 4 years, we have had historic droughts where we are within 1 week of running out of water from our wells in Ashland. Do you think that it's fair for some wealthy landowners to pump water privately out of aquifers to water their landscapes when the rest of the town on public water supply is prohibited from doing so? What is your position on metering private wells to make water withdrawals more equitable? Bernadette, we'll start with you.
Can you say the question one more time, please?
Sure, one more time. So the Board of Health regulates water in the town. In the past 4 years, we've had some historic droughts where we've been within 1 week of running out of water from our wells here in Ashland. Do you think that it's fair that some wealthy landowners pump water privately out of our aquifers to water their landscapes when the rest of the town on public water supply is prohibited from doing so? What is your position on metering private wells to make the water withdrawals more equitable?
I think the best way to go about such issues is to address them in a public health angle, where in public health, every community member is very important. It's not just a few people. So I would recommend that such issues are forwarded to the Board of Health, and they are addressed in line with the priorities and in line with regulations that are in place for water wells for the town.
Thank you, Bernadette. KG.
Yeah, what I feel is that monitoring the wells in terms of finding out how much quantity will tell us how the depletion in the overall aquifer happens. Then if it is rapid, and then one can move on to metering them with cost for using it. I know it's all privately owned lands, and the laws in this state and the United States have private ownership for the well water side, but the things are changing, and the courts are leaning into the situation where they think it's a public property, so they should be able to use cautiously rather than just using it without limit.
Thank you, KG. The next question that I have is for both of you is, how do you think the pandemic has affected the board's ability to accomplish its goals, if at all? So KG, I'll ask you that question first.
Yes, it has used the manpower that we have and limited numbers. So we have been depending on the volunteers, and then we continuously get changing regulations every day, and then we have to keep up with it. And our staff barely manages it, but they've done a good job within the limited source that we have.
Bernadette, pandemic impact?
Yeah, I believe the pandemic has really impacted almost everybody in the community. And in regard to the Board of Health, being that pandemics are never planned for, so it's something that has definitely impacted the resources of the Board of Health. And that's why we had to get funds from the federal government. And the other way is like we definitely, being a pandemic, and it was a new pandemic to everybody. So they had to put in a lot of time to change policies and make sure everybody is well represented, and make sure everybody gets the right treatment that they need and access whatever services that they need.
Thanks, Bernadette. Here's another question. How do you see the Board of Health as a resource for the community? And Bernadette, I'll have you go first on that one.
Okay. First of all, one of the things that are most important with the Board of Health, the Board of Health is more involved in policy regulation and formulation. And the Board of Health is so involved in regulating policies and making sure the community's health is good. So the Board of Health is very important for every community because it regulates and enforces public health policies. So it is very important in that angle.
Thanks, Bernadette. KG?
Yes, Board of Health does have the role of regulating as well as enforcing it, but making public more aware of the public health issues is vital. Once people learn about what things are affecting the public health, they probably will guide themselves to make it better for the entire public that live in the town. Thank you.
Okay, moving along with a few other questions. I'd like both of you to share your thoughts about public participation with the Board of Health. That is the question. So the question is, share your thoughts about public participation with the board. KG, I'll have you answer that first.
Sure. We have limited resources to enforce and monitor things, and public are the ones who bring the complaint to us, especially when you have a food poisoning cases. People report to us, and then we tend to go around and make the inspection because we don't know a priori which food facility had issues with it unless it affects people and they bring it to us. So public is an important part of the public health participation because they make us to monitor it by bringing their complaints. Thank you.
Thank you. Bernadette.
Oh, thank you. The public is very important to the Board of Health in regard to informing the board about what's going on, what their priorities are, and informing the board about their priorities and any other information that we need to know in order to come up with better policies related to the communities. That's how important the public is to the Board of Health.
Very good. A little bit of a change of pace from some of the questions that we've had so far. Bernadette and KG after that, what's most important to you about being on the Board of Health? From a personal perspective. So then again, what's most important to you about being on the Board of Health?
What is more important for me about being on the Board of Health is my entire life, I have been working in the health arena. So the fact that I have also a master's degree in public health, it's important for me to be on the Board of Health because because of my experience and work, my experience and training in research. And I believe if I can bring those skills, the Board of Health will be able to address the most pressing health concerns of Ashland Town.
Thanks, Maria. KG?
It's my being there. I want to make sure that there's a fairness in applying the regulations to any issues that come up, plus bring a equitable solution for people who need a solution when there is a impossible situation that come up, and then we need to find and mediate a better solution for them to accommodate both the regulation as well as their needs. So that can be done by listening to people and working with them. That's what I would feel more important, is to listen to people.
Thanks, KG. I have a question for you both. Being a board member means being part of a team of individuals who together make stronger, more effective decisions. What experiences have the both of you had as part of a team where success was achieved because of that teamwork? Bernadette, why don't you go ahead and answer this one first?
Through my experience working with teams, I'm very open-minded and I'm very good at communication, and my skills in mobilizing the community and other groups to get things done has always been positive to the communities and groups I've worked with. So I believe that will be a positive to the Board of Health.
Thanks, Bernadette. KG.
Hi, teamwork is important because if you don't have a teamwork, then things drag on and then there won't be an effective solution in the short term. But we need a teamwork which is united, even though they have differing opinion. Once you make a decision, you need to make sure move forward with it rather than just crimping over the same old issue all the time. So teamwork is important.
Thank you. Shifting a little bit more to the personal, I'll ask you both, what unique experience do you have, either personal or professional, that make you the best candidate for this role? Bernadette.
Like I said earlier on, my training in public health, where I focused on research, I believe my research skills will help us identify, do like community assessments and identify the services that we need. And those skills will also help us address the most pressing health concerns in our town. And in regard to the personal level, I am so passionate about health, and my will to help the community and make the community more healthy will be a positive to the Board of Health.
Thanks, Bernadette. KG?
I had 44 years of teaching experience. And being a teacher, I think that I'm always a perennial student too, to keep learning new things and take the new challenges and learn from it, and then share the experience with fellow team members on the board, and then work together. That is what's important for me.
Thank you. Another question. If you hear about something that concerns you in the town, what steps would you take to see this concern is resolved? And KG, I'll have you start with that one.
Sure. The first thing is first, if it is an issue that can be monitored at the immediate instant, you reach out to the staff who is responsible, either the Board of Health Director or the inspector, and notify them this is what has happened. Sometimes we do get complaints, and where people don't want to put their names together, we just relay that information to the officer who's responsible for inspecting, and then confirm the issue, and then bring it to the board if it need to be, or rectify it, or tell the person who's violating or creating this issue to resolve it easily.
Thank you, KG. Bernadette.
In my view, I would reach out to the health department, and the health department will probably reach out to the Board of Health, whatever protocol they have in the health department, but it's an issue that has to be put out there to the health department so it can get solved.
This is a related question. Thank you, Bernadette. This is a related question about community participation. So sometimes sometimes community participation is a challenge. How do you feel about increased participation, and how would that impact the Board of Health? Increased community participation.
Who do you want to go first?
Bernadette.
Thank you so much. Increased community participation is very important to especially ironing out or solving any issues going on in the communities. And I believe that when people are part of any issues or we have in the community, and they will have the will to make sure things get better. So for me, community participation is very major in public health. That's, for me, I feel that's the only way we can resolve most of the issues going on in the community. So,
I'm sorry.
yeah, okay.
Go ahead. Were you finished with your response?
Yeah.
Cool. Oh, you were? Okay, sorry about that.
Right.
KG?
Yes, increased participation of the public is important because you sometimes get the solution from them. They make the solutions that they can accommodate their needs by providing a solution they have it, and which we can evaluate and understand that. Ideas come from them, and we need to use their ideas to work with them. And also public participation is one good thing because it brings the awareness of the issue for everybody else. More public knows about it, more people will follow through the regulations, or they will help us build the regulations easily. Thank you.
Thanks, KG. My next question has to do with some of those issues. So in your opinion, what are the top 3 issues that your board is going to be facing over the coming year? And I'll start with you, KG.
One of them is probably looking at the well regulation that we need to review it and then probably revise it to make sure it is to the current standards. The other one is to find out how we can improve the public health participation as a solution for the pandemics that we are facing now. And then we need to find out how to resolve the existing situation from the pandemic to a better situation. We need to make sure we educate these people to obey and follow through the instructions given by the CDC to have a better health here. That's the second one. And also we need to bring up more opportunities for educating people. That's it.
Thanks, KG. Bernadette, what are the top 3 issues?
The top 3 issues I'll think about is, of course, the pandemic is still here. It's been new to everybody. And I mean, we something we still need to understand very well. And of course, how to prevent it next time. That's my number 1. The other problem I think that affects the community is maybe like the tobacco regulation things. I think it's tobacco regulations and opioids are also such a big issue in almost all communities, and I believe Ashland as well. The other third issue I would talk about is maybe, like he said, well regulation, because it's coming up. So I think we need to see a way of regulating wells so that everybody can have equal access to the water that we need.
Thanks, Bernadette. Now I have a follow-up question to that question. Based on your response to the top 3 issues, what skills, talents, and experiences do you specifically bring that will uniquely address these issues? So, Bernadette.
The top 3 or just one of them?
Based on your response to the top 3 issues, what skills, talents, and experiences do you bring that would uniquely address these issues?
Okay. In regard to the pandemic, I have skills in research and data collection. So, and that's very key in preventing or ironing out pandemics. In regard to the well regulation, I have experience in writing. I once collected data on well regulations and for Wayland Town. So, and I think that's the draft they use right now. So I'll use the experience. I mean, the what I used, because what I did was to research about other towns that are kind of similar to Wayland. So with that, I think when we get ideas like that, it will help us iron that issue out. And in regard to, what else? Opioids? Yeah, opioids need to be controlled probably right from the doctor's office. And
I'm sorry, Bernadette, I'm gonna have to ask you to stop. KG.
Hi, on the
same question.
Sure. On the well regulation, I've been reading quite a bit of papers that exist in this, as well as the court cases, to see how well we can adopt it without getting into legal conflicts. So that would help me out. I've done tremendous amount of research over the past 1.5 years. And I do dig deep into it to make sure that our town doesn't get into legal issues all the time when we want to apply for any regulations. And the question of educating people, my experience is I've been an experienced teacher for 43 years, so I can bring my experience with the exposure to the student as well as educating process and build some kind of a plan to educate people about public health issues. And with regard to the pandemic, we are running through the experience right now, and this has helped me to build more of it. Thank you.
Thank you, KG. Well, it looks like we've got another water question. So here's the question. When are we going to require water meters to be installed onto private wells so that we know how much water they are sipping from the aquifers to water their lawns? And they pay for it just like regular ratepayers do. Bernadette?
Honestly, I'm not very comfortable answering that question. I don't even know how to, I don't know how to go around that. Maybe KG can help.
Oh, sure, definitely. Well, the issue is first you need to collect the data about how many wells are there and how much of the well pumping out, and then get statistics about it and make a case for the people that were paying the money for the public water, saying that this is a resource that is depleted for everybody else, and then convince them so that we can put in the meters on the private wells. Plus, charging them, we get to be very careful about it, see whether legally permitted or not, and it can be researched. So I just read a paper where the concept of people owning the well, have the ownership of the water, is moving away from that concept. Courts are working through to allow others to implement on it. So that's where we are.
Thank you, KG. A little earlier, we talked, I heard from both of you about how the Board of Health interacts with town staff. Here's a question about that. How do you see the role of the board interacting with town staff generally? So Bernadette, do you want to take that question?
Sure. Being that the Board of Health is, I mean, whatever issues that go to the Board of Health come from the people and the town, or the staff in the town hall or in the town. So I believe that's one interaction. And when we are coming up with regulations, or if we are going to enforce any policies, I imagine all departments work along with each other. So that's also the other way the Board of Health can work along with other staff. And also we can deliberately make it a point for the Board of Health to work along with the other staff as we take care of the health of our community, because that's a major important thing. Yeah.
Thanks, Bernadette. KG?
All right. What I would do is I would use the office staff first to let them know that an issue has come up, and then they are the right people to go around and then make the inspection if need be, or bring a clarification to the person who brought the complaint or the person who caused the issue. So they would do the best. And then even though we are by law authorized as an individual board member to go and then excise our regulations and then enforce them individually, but it's always good to go through the staff who we have, paid staff, so they will take care of it. So that's how we interact with them, to keep them abreast of what complaints are and then make sure that they act on it and then get some solution for it.
Thanks, KG. So KG and Bernadette, we talked a little bit about interacting with staff. The next question has to do with other boards and committees. So name other boards and committees with which you think you would work closely with that would benefit both boards and committees. Bernadette, why don't you take this one first?
KG, the other one I took first. KG first.
Oh, sure, I can do that. Not a problem. Okay. I'm by personal request. I've been on two boards, one on the CONCOM and then the Board of Health. The CONCOM works with the water bodies, and Board of Health requires the water bodies to be pure enough and not contaminated. So the CONCOM also does that. So whenever there is a septic issue that comes for Conservation Commission in the neighborhood of the water bodies, I usually alert the Board of Health saying that there is an issue coming about septic, make sure that they bring it to the Board of Health also. Similarly, if the septic system comes to the Board of Health and which requires to go to the CONCOM also, I tell the CONCOM agent to go and then get that information and work through. So I've been a good liaison between two boards, but being on the board.
Thank you, KG. Bernadette?
Thank you so much. One thing I know is like all issues that affect us in the community, or like as we work in the offices, our departments are kind of interrelated. That's how I look at offices. So in one way or another, we should be working with almost all boards if we want our communities to be better, because health is almost everything. Whether you go to housing, health will be there, because if the housing is not good, then people won't be healthy. So I believe we are going to work almost hand in hand with every committee or board to make sure our community gets better or safe.
Thanks, Bernadette. You both have talked a little bit about this, but I'd like you to answer this specific question. Topical knowledge and experience can be a big benefit when discussing, debating, and making decisions. In this changing world, how do you plan to stay aware of current happenings in the industries related to the board you're serving on?
I don't know, for some reason I didn't hear that properly.
So, topical knowledge and experience can be a big benefit when discussing or debating or making decisions. In this changing world, how do you plan to stay aware of the current happenings in the industries related to the board?
Okay. Is it my turn?
Yes.
I plan to stay open-minded. So, because I believe when someone's open-minded, first of all, you get more knowledge, because you're gonna listen more. So by listening, and yeah, I'll get more knowledge, and to me that's very key.
Thanks, Bernadette. KG?
Yeah, the thing is that we do get often emails from the DPH, Department of Public Health, as well as the mosquito control, for if there's a mosquito issue. Yeah. Local issues are being dealt with the state various departments. They send us email, and we are on their email ID. So they send whatever email comes right through to, and then that gives me a good handle on what subject matter that we can deal with. And national issues with the health comes from the CDC. So we look at their website or their emails that come to us, and we learn from them and then work things out too.
Thanks, KG. I'm going to ask a question I asked earlier. I'm wondering if you all have some opinions on this. So while Zoom meetings are not the same as meeting in person, they have allowed for more participation and attendance during COVID. What are the plans, or what do you think the plan should be post-COVID for the town to hold hybrid meetings so that folks who can't make meetings in person can participate remotely? Your thoughts? KG, we'll start with you.
Sure. I feel it's a positive thing, because there are people who cannot make it on time, or for a long time they cannot sit down sometimes. So it's better for them to be at home and then attend the meeting. And also for others who want to be socially connected in person, it's a better opportunity, so they may express it far better when they're in person than on the Zoom. So we should have both mix in it for ongoing for the future.
Thanks, KG. Bernadette, your thoughts?
Zoom meetings have been such a positive to everyone. And I believe, like KG said, people can decide whether to have Zoom or in person, depending on what issues are pressing in the town. But I think both medias can stay, in my opinion. Yeah.
Thanks, Bernadette. Here's another question about community and community outreach. The role of a committee member is to represent the Ashland community in decisions. In what ways will your community outreach help you to bring the community's perspectives to your committee's discussions? Bernadette, do you want to field that one first?
KG.
All right.
KG, do you want to field that one first?
No, not a problem at all. The best thing is for me to mix with people at public events. One of them is the farmers market, where I quite often go there, and being able to talk to people. And then even though they may not be able to reach me during the daytime on a weekday to tell me that, hey, this issue is burning in my area, I need to get this attended. So they will talk to me in person at that place. So that's much easier. So I can bring it back to the respective board members or the health department to work with it. Thank you.
Thanks, KG. Bernadette?
Like you said, one of the jobs of board members is to represent the community. And I'm in several groups in Ashland town. So I imagine if any issues come up and I need to forward them to the concerned persons or maybe the Board of Health, that will be one of the ways I can represent, or people's voices can be represented. And I usually go to church and public places. So in case there are any pressing issues, that's how I can listen to people and then bring their voice to the Board of Health.
Thanks, Bernadette. I have another Board of Health specific question that's come in. So what is your position on responsible pesticide/herbicide applications to specific types of invasive plants that cannot be managed any other way? KG, do you want to field this one first?
Yeah, I guess most of the plants have issues with pesticides, and we need to make a limited applications as such, and needs to be approved by the Board of Health every time they apply. And the reason that application of pesticide would affect the groundwater, which in turn will affect the species of that go in the aquifer, or I meant the water bodies, and we need to make sure that they're all protected. And then somehow, ultimately, we consume the water that's there in the neighborhood through various means, either by well water or other things. So we need to have a pure water. So we need to be careful in using the herbicides.
Thanks, KG. Bernadette?
I think I'll urge the community to be careful on, because we know pesticides affect both the plants and the people. So I'll follow CDC guidelines and the Public Health Department guidelines on control pesticides, to improve community wellness and to inform people on when and how to use the pesticides.
Thanks, Bernadette. Here's another question. The town is undergoing a tremendous amount of growth. How might this affect the efforts of the Board of Health? KG, do you want to field that one first?
Sure, definitely. It's tremendous growth. If there is more food vendors, then we have understaffed, so we need to get more staff, so we need more budget process for that. Plus, if you have more people in the town, we need to make sure their health is protected, their housing is protected very well, and they have social atmosphere. Social health is part of the public health. If you don't have a social group that works with everybody and brings in common factors to the table, then you don't have a healthy community. You need to have a healthy community, means you need to have a social atmosphere within the community. Thank you.
Thanks, KG. Bernadette?
With the growing community, and we will need definitely more housing, more resources in overall, and some of the resources we may need to increase maybe housing, because food, as KG said, and biking areas so people can keep exercise and keep healthy. So basically, we're going to need more resources all around.
Thank you, Bernadette. Switching back to board mechanics here. How would you handle hearing a complaint about something the board is faced with? Bernadette, I want you to try to answer this one first.
I believe the Board of Health has meetings on a monthly basis. First of all, if it's such a pressing issue, I would email my fellow board members and the health department. And then from there, we shall see how to go about such an issue as a team.
Thanks, Bernadette. KG, can you field this?
Yeah, if it's a private complaint and then the person who complained doesn't want to be named, we just go to the board officer who's Board of Health director or the staff there, let them know that there is an issue that's coming up. But if this is a publicly lodged complaint, and we will give the chance to the person who has been complained about to rectify it or explain what the nature of the complaint is, and then why that cannot be addressed by him, and then bring it to the board, and then board may have a hearing based on the issue.
Thank you, KG. Many issues came up specifically due to the pandemic over the past year. How do you see those issues changing over the next year? KG, can you field that one first, please?
Sure. One of the issues is wearing the mask, maintaining the social distancing, as well as looking at the restaurants' ability to function themselves as a business within this COVID conditions. And then they should be able to survive in business because economically it should be viable for them. And these are factors that we have to use it and provide some various solutions or augment new solutions for them so that the conditions for COVID maintenance, safe distance, as well as the masking is also accommodated, as well as the business doesn't get tarnished by their services that they provide to the community. So these needs to be addressed carefully and well managed.
Thanks, KG. Bernadette?
Could you ask them, can you ask the question one more time?
Sure. Let's see. Many issues came up specifically because of the pandemic. How do you see those issues changing over the next year?
Okay. Issues of like social distancing, I mean, if we are all getting vaccinated now, so I believe by the end of next year, we won't be even talking about social distancing. Everybody will be comfortable socializing with everybody. And by so doing, people won't have that many mental health issues because they'll be able to socialize. As we know, some of the mental health problems are created by that. Yeah, that's what I can talk about.
Thank you, Bernadette. I have another question come in for the both of you. In the time of COVID, many establishments with public restrooms were closed. So if there are no facilities, if you are an essential worker other than those at grocery stores, how difficult would it be to develop some public restrooms in Ashland and why? So I guess the question is, how difficult would it be to develop some public restrooms in Ashland?
It is difficult because there's no space in downtown areas where you want to have it. We do have one available in the Stone Park, but it is quite far away. And sometimes on occasions, the public has been allowed to use the fire department's restrooms and the police restrooms within the downtown area. But it all depends on how one can maintain it. If there is a staff to maintain the restrooms clean and friendly enough for people to use it, it's well and good. But otherwise, it's very difficult to manage to provide one for the public use.
Thanks, KG. Bernadette, your thoughts?
My thoughts would be, because I know during COVID, some places were open, like the grocery stores and okay, let's say the grocery stores. So I would negotiate with the grocery people, I mean, the owners of the grocery stores and other facilities to see how we can allow the public, in case someone wants to use the bathroom really quick, to be able to access those places and to ensure they're well sanitized.
Thank you, Bernadette. Switching gears a little bit again. For both of you, and you've mentioned, I think both of you have mentioned some of this, but I think if you could answer this question directly, have you had other experiences where you've been on another board or committee or volunteered? And how has that prepared you for being on the Board of Health? Bernadette, why don't you take this one first?
I have the opportunity to be on the Housing Trust, I mean, Affordable Housing Trust Committee, I mean, as a member. And first of all, it has given me the opportunity to have more Zoom meetings and also to interact with some other people on those boards that are influential in the town. So, and I even believe if I'm on the board of health and there are any issues in the housing, affordable housing committee, it will help me easily influence and interact with those people to see how we can iron out all these issues in the future. So it has prepared me pretty well to also to understand issues that are pressing people in the community and that we need to solve, yeah, as a community.
Thanks, Bernadette. KG?
Yeah, I started volunteering first as a member of the forgot the committee's name, in fact. Well, after that, I got into CONCOM and then the Board of Health. The first committee where I was in for I don't remember the name. Anyway, that helped me out learn the ethics laws that we have, as well as the open meeting laws, which are required for the other boards. So that helped me sail through that. Thank you.
Thank you, KG. Since we keep dropping Zoom, and you can include this in your answer if you'd like, but I'm looking for some other answers as well. How might technology advances help this board or committee be more effective or efficient? Ideas. KG, you first.
Sure. First of all, we wanted to get the food permits to be online, which we are trying to get that worked out. Right now, the inspection reports are all online, so that helps us to get the instant information that we need. So the food inspector can go and inspect and then log in all the report immediately right from the vendor's place, and then we get immediate emails. So that gives an instant access to the information. And we can also collect data and analyze it on the system that they may have a new system they bought. And if we can do the same thing for the food permit applications, we gather a lot of information with which we can manage our inspection report. So technology is an important aspect of it.
Thanks, KG. Bernadette?
Technology is such an important aspect because, first of all, you get instant information right away. I mean, instant information, and we are able to share information easily because 100 people can log online and just share the same information right away, and they all know what's going on. And even for our own benefits, if you now we know how to use Zoom, which we didn't even know how to use before. So we are more comfortable. I think a lot of people have gotten more comfortable using technology because of what we've been exposed to during the pandemic. So, yeah.
Thanks, Bernadette. Related question for the both of you. Discuss opportunities that you see to change or improve things during your tenure on the board. So KG, why don't we start with you?
Yes, one is I've been trying to work with the food permit being online, so which we have done part of it. So hopefully that will come to successful completion and then get implemented before this November when the new applicants come in. So that's what I'm hoping for. And also begin reviewing the well regulation, and then maybe we can accommodate the meter or controlling the use of water to in terms of quantity of usage.
Thanks, KG. Bernadette?
I hope to ask my fellow board of members to do a community assessment so we can know what exactly we have resources we have in the community and the most pressing issues that we have in the community. I don't know the last time Ashland did like a community assessment, because I know it's very major in identifying any health issues going on in our communities. And the other thing I know is I hope to use my research and data collection skills in also helping us in disease prevention, also any disease preventions in our community or any other pressing health concerns in our communities to make our community better.
Thank you, Bernadette. We're almost getting to the point where we'll be asking you all to wrap up, but I have another question for you before we do. And specifically, I'd like to know what's in it for you? Why are you volunteering to do this work? KG, could you start with that?
Well, I get personal satisfaction in giving back to the town. So that's important for me because I came here 46 years ago and I've stayed in Ashland for 20 years. And both the state, the country, as well as the town has given me a lot. And then I've enjoyed being here. Socially, it has accommodated me and it has enriched me in understanding people here. So I get the fulfillment that I'm doing something. So I need to volunteer and give back something to that. I started here in Ashland as a member of the Ashland Cultural Council. That is the first council that I got into it. And then I got into CONCOM and Board of Health together. I've served on both of these committees and things 6 years each. So I've had good experience here and I like to keep that experience on.
Thank you, KG.
Thank you.
Bernadette.
The major reason why I'd like to volunteer, especially in the health arena, is because I'm passionate about health and the wellness of communities, maybe because of my my entire work experience and my trainings. So that drives me to volunteer for this community that I feel I can make a lasting impression. So that's my driving force, the passion and the training and the experience. Yeah.
Excellent. And I think this is a good time to segue into closing statements. So as a reminder to the candidates, I'll be asking you both to make a closing statement. There'll be 1 minute each. So we will start with the reverse order of opening. So that means KG, you get to make your closing statement first. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Makita, for moderating this. And I also would like to thank WACA-TV and the Bylaw Ashland for arranging this forum. And this has been a amusingly great event for me. And I'd also thank Bernadette for being here to debate with or to speak with the public and then express our collective views to people and give them the assurance that we will do a good job for them when they elect us. Thank you.
Thank you, KG. Bernadette, your closing statement.
First of all, I would love to thank the organizing committee. I imagine this was not easy for anybody. And I would also like to thank, again, the committee for giving me this opportunity to participate in this forum. To me, this has been like a learning lesson, and I believe I've learned a lot. Probably it's not, I don't usually do public forums, but I feel like, I was not ready for the forum maybe until 30 minutes because my name was not on until like 30 minutes before time. So yeah, I believe this has been quite an experience, and if the community gives me the opportunity to serve as a volunteer, I believe I'll be a great asset to the committee because of my experience and my passion, and be sure everybody will be well represented in this community. Thank you so much, Makida, and everybody else.
Thank you so much, Bernadette and KG. Thank you so much for both of you to step up and to run for office. It's important that we let our voices be heard, whether we're candidates or whether we're able to vote. I'd also like to thank We Love Ashland and WACA-TV. A couple of reminders. On May 18th, in-person voting takes place at Ashland High School. There are opportunities for early voting and mail-in voting as well. Please check the town website for more information about that. It's just so critical that we as a community make sure that our voices are heard. Again, thank you so much for this candidates forum. Tomorrow night, we'll be having another candidates forum for contested races. Please tune in then. But until then, thank you so much for tuning in now. On behalf of WACA, WACA, We love Ashland and all the volunteers that made this possible. Thanks for watching and have a good evening.
Thank you, Makita.
Thank you. Thank you.